What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Post Up with David Grubb right here on Boot Crew Media. I am glad to be with you. I have missed this. Last week the game was on a Wednesday, so we just didn't get to do it. So I've missed a lot of news, obviously. And after 4+ seasons of mediocrity, Willie Green was finally given his walking papers. And I don't know, I don't want to belabor it too much because I've made myself clear on this for years. Like, it was early on for me that I could see that Willie Green was only going to take you to a certain point. Again, I've asked this question many, many times, and I think it's the one question that you have to ask for anybody in any coaching position or any position in life. What advantage do they give you? Now, the first year, the reason why, besides the fact that at 36 wins, they were really lucky to get into the postseason. But the reason why it worked was because the energy was where it needed to be for that team. They were coming off of the pandemic. Was happening, Lido? Good to talk to you, brother. Good to see you in the chat. But they had taken it. It had been a tough season. They were coming off the Stan Van Gundy time. I think that Stan Van Gundy, just for whatever reasons, rubbed Brandon Ingram and Josh Hart and just didn't get along with the guys that he needed to get along with at the top of the food chain. And so Willie coming in, he just had to make the vibes better. And remember, Zion wasn't there. So he really only had to placate Brandon Ingram. And they got along great that first year, right? Brandon and Willie got along fine. So then you get to the point where when they get to the play-in, you've brought in these veterans and Larry Nance and CJ McCollum, who gave you this boost. You had Brandon playing at a high level, and you get into the playoffs. But that was the end. That was the end of the good coaching. The 42 wins the next year, you had a double-digit losing streak. That should have told you right then and there that this was not your guy. During the 49-win season, you won 21 home games and couldn't win in the fourth quarter. You could not close out. That should have told you that wasn't your guy. When he got swept into playoffs and put up one of the worst offensive performances in the history of the playoffs, that should have told you that wasn't your guy. Then last season, when you won 21 games, that should have told you that wasn't your guy. Your previous executives told you this wasn't your guy. And for all the problems I had with Griffin, I don't think Griff should be in New Orleans either. I think his firing was due when it came due. But I would have to imagine that Griff wanted to move on from Willie a lot earlier. But as we've seen, ownership had no desire to do that. So to put all of this, to get to this point and think, and I saw the celebrations. And I understand why. Like, when you have a season like this, you're taking anything that you can to be a salve on the wound that is this horrible basketball season. The problems with this team do not end because you changed head coaches. If you go into a really bad McDonald's, what's up, D-boy? You go into a really bad McDonald's, they fired a manager. If the cashier still ain't good, if the guy on fries still ain't paying attention, if the ice cream machine still ain't working, if the fryer is busted, if the heat lamps don't work, if the shake machine is down, it's still a bad McDonald's. It don't matter if you bring in the greatest manager of all time. If all those things still persist, you've got a bad place. There is nothing that the Pelicans as an organization from top to bottom can say that they do well. What do they do well? I made this comparison. And, when you see all these people talk about the Pelicans as a team, and they say, as an organization, they say, this is a franchise that needs to move, blah, 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 blah. There's an agenda behind that. But the overall feeling, the reason why this persists, though, in a big way, is because no one cares outside of Pelicans fans about the Pelicans. They feel bad when they lose to the Pelicans, not because they got beat by a good team. It's because they got beat by the Pelicans. Okay, so when you get into that situation as an organization, you have real systemic issues. It's beyond what's on the court. The court is plenty, and we'll get to that. But now you've put this situation in place where you think that they've given you change for change sake, because getting rid of Willie is just a move that they were in position. They had nothing else they could do. They had nothing else they could do. They weren't prepared to trade any players. They're not prepared to punt on the season and tell fans that it's over. They're not going to be honest about what they were doing and why this all happened. Because it still feels to me that who asked the question to Joe Dumars to his face on the first day he arrived, do you have a mandate to keep Willie Green? And he says no. But it's clear that there was some type of pressure to keep Willie Green. When the owner is giving press conferences and saying, I love Willie Green, it's not your place, ma'am. Not your place, ma'am. The Pelicans are not here to win basketball games. If you want to compare the Pelicans to another franchise in the NBA in a different time, the New Orleans Pelicans are the Los Angeles Clippers from 1970 whatever until the Chris Paul trade. That's what the Pelicans are. That's what the Pelicans are. They are in the business of being in the business of basketball. They are not in the business of winning basketball games. That is not what they are here to do. They are in a cycle that repeats itself every 5 to 6 years, right? You get a playoff team, you start to feel excited as a fan base. It gets blown up for whatever reason, whether it's injury, whether it's free agency, whether it's players' desire to go out and go off to another team. But then you go through the cycle again. Another roster comes in, you get excited about, something derails it, bad coaching, bad players, bad injuries, bad luck. And then they do it again. So now with James Borrego, who had the option of going to other teams this offseason, the Pelicans would not allow it. So you get to that, and you give James Borrego, who did not get to pick this roster, because this is not a roster suited to play the way James Borrego wants to play. This is not a roster suited to play motion basketball. They try it. They run one little play. You've seen it. They've run this little dribble handoff action to Fears, and they've done it for Hawkins to get 3-point shots. But you don't have the roster to play Borrego ball. You don't have the shooters or the guys willing to shoot. You don't have the passers. You don't have guys who can create off the dribble, not for others. I want to talk to you about something real quick. I have made this, and those who have been with me since Hard to Paint back in 2019, you know what I've been saying the Pelicans' problem is. It's two positions, point guard and center. Point guard and center has been a problem for 7 years. 7 years. Same two positions. This illustrates that, okay? Starting point guards, just the starting point guards, not the whole collection of point guards, not the backups who've done well against the Pelicans. Starting point guards this season, and you have to think about how few minutes some of those have played because of the blowouts that they've been able to execute against the Pelicans. The starting point guards this season are averaging 20.4 points, 7.3 assists, 3.7 rebounds, 1.3 steals, and are shooting 46% from the floor against the Pelicans. Pelicans starting point guards combined, Jeremiah Fears for 12 games, Jordan Poole for 2 games, 14 points, 4 assists, 3 rebounds, less than 1 steal, 42% from the floor. You are at a huge disadvantage already. That's 6 points right now. The Pelicans, you talk about the losing margin, that's 6 of your points right there. Every night, the opposing point guard is 6 points better. The starting point guard is 6 points better than what you're putting out on the floor. Because you have a rookie. We're going to talk about Jeremiah Fears in a minute, but I have not a lot of criticisms for Jeremiah Fears other than rookie criticisms. You know what I'm saying? 4 double doubles. 4 double doubles. Those point guards have had against you. So let's look at the centers, right? And again, we're not talking about a whole bunch of centers who are juggernauts. You've played against some really good ones offensively, but mostly you've allowed good centers to look like great centers. So this season, starting centers, just the starting centers again, and you've had backups who've gotten double doubles. You've had guys off the bench do great against the Pelicans. Just the starters are averaging 14 points, 11 boards, 3 assists, 3 blocks, and they're shooting 58% from the floor. 58%. The opposing center is shooting almost 60% from the floor. The opposing point guard is shooting 46% from the floor. Opposing teams are shooting 50% from the floor against the Pelicans. Pelicans starting centers this season in those 14 games are averaging about 5 points, 5 rebounds, 1 block, 2 assists, and shooting a little bit over 50%. So that's a 9-point deficit, right? You have a 9-point deficit at center. You have a 6-point deficit at point guard every night. That's 15 points you got to make up in those two positions every night. You have guys that cannot run the offense because you have guys who cannot dribble. You have guys that cannot screen. You have guys that cannot move without the basketball. This is a low IQ basketball team. It has guys who are physically gifted. It has some guys with basketball IQ. But as a whole, this is not a smart basketball team. You cannot play the offense that James Borrego wants to play because your defense is so bad and so non-committed. When we're talking about the 20 points the point guards are getting every night, and we keep hearing about the Pelicans are hurt. The Pelicans are hurt. Why are reserves, third options, guys like that going off for 40 points against the Pelicans then? Why is the same problem persisted no matter who's been on the floor for years about not closing out on three-point shooters? The Pelicans have always allowed a high number of threes, but teams, when they were at their best, didn't make their threes. The Pelicans were at least getting enough contests that teams were making a lower than average number of their open threes. That isn't happening anymore. Everybody's hitting shots against the Pelicans. When Lou Dort comes out and hits 4 threes before people have sat down, what are you doing? You're allowing people to get hot in your building. Not one starter is a solid screener outside of Eve Measy. Not one starter can set a screen. The best post scorer right now is Sadiq Bey. This is you lost a game to the Golden State Warriors. You lost a game to the Golden State Warriors where Steph Curry and Draymond Green combined for 17 points. And you lost by a lot. Okay? That has nothing to do with your injuries. That has nothing to do with your injuries. That has everything to do with your effort. And night after night, you see teams scoring off of Pelicans makes, running right back down the floor, scoring easily. Every night you see the Pelicans beat on the glass. Every night you see the Pelicans getting out rebounded, getting out blocked, getting just out physical. That's on you. It doesn't matter who the coach is. And you've heard Antonio Daniels say it, said at some point you have to be embarrassed. At some point you have to fight. And that's why just getting rid of Willie Green doesn't help enough. And now you're asking James Borrego, you have put him in a no-win situation. Because when do you see coaches who take over at this stage in the season? I'm going to talk about the guys who got their jobs last season on playoff teams when coaches got fired. I'm not talking about taking over for Tibbs in New York. What we're talking about is when you take over a team that's firing its coach within 20 games of the start of the season, that means everything is bad. That means everything is bad. And you're asking Borrego to win, let's say just to get to 500, this team needs 39 wins. They're not going to get 39 wins in the final part of the season. It's already over as far as contending for the playoffs. That part's done. If you want to be optimistic and say that there's a chance this team can get to the playoffs, cool. But I'm telling you, it's over. They're not making the playoffs. Guys are going to get more selfish as this season goes on. Because when you're losing and you're not competing to win games, and you have a bunch of guys who need numbers and who think that, hey, this could be the year that I get moved or I ask to move, it's not going to get better. I mean, let's just look ahead at what the Pelicans have on their schedule, and you tell me when it's going to get better. Denver to close out the homestand, and then the rest of this month is Dallas, Atlanta, Chicago, Memphis, Golden State, and the Lakers. Now you tell me, maybe one win the rest of this month. So you think a 3-20 team is going to come back and make the playoffs? A 4-19 team? Dallas is the get right game. Even if you beat Dallas, you're not going to beat Atlanta. You can't stop point guards. You can't stop point guards, and you can't stop people from making threes. You turn the ball over at a high rate. You turn the ball over at an incredibly high rate. You can get right against Atlanta. You're going to get right against Chicago. Again, Josh Giddey, who has great games against you and is playing fantastic basketball. One of the few players averaging 20 and 7 this season at the guard position. You're going to get right against Memphis, who you cannot beat. You've shown that you can't beat them over the last couple years. Golden State, you're going to go back and beat them. You think Steph's going to score 9 again? You think Steph's going to score 9 again when you go to Golden State? Do you think you're going to beat the Lakers in LA? All those teams, point guards and centers, except for Golden State doesn't have a center. You blew the season when you started it with the wrong coach. You blew it this offseason when you hired Joe Dumars without having any interview process, without talking to a single other person. You went back and hired the guy that you wanted to get 6 years ago, which was 6 years too late then. This franchise is just, what's good? The arena's trash. The prices are high. The team is bad. The front office is bad. It is painful. No one has ever asked. Like the dream of the fan. The dream of the fan is, yeah, we would love to win a championship. But the reality is you just want your team to be competitive. You want to be in the conversation because it's really hard to win championships. But there are a lot of great teams that we remember that never won championships. So when you look at what fun is in enjoying a team, you know what I'm saying? Like Portland went 20 years with winning teams that at least that fan base could be proud of. The Grindhouse Grizzlies, that was a team you could be proud of. You know what I'm saying? People love that team. Allen Iverson didn't win his championship, but while he was there, those were fun teams that were enjoyable to watch. Utah Jazz, 20 plus years of making the playoffs. You're in the conversation regularly. The Hawks got a couple of 60-win teams. It didn't win championships, but they got 60 wins. They were the number one seed. Yeah, all you got is CP3 and D West, and it was gone so fast. It was gone so fast. They took it away from you. That's right. Your team isn't even fun to watch. You're not even fun to watch. And if you can't be entertaining, that's sports is supposed to be two things, right? Entertainment and competition. It's not just entertainment because you don't get passionate about just entertainment. You get passionate because it's about civic pride, it's about loving the sport. And when you look at this and you look at this organization, this team, shout out to my man Kevin Robinette. It's my brother. I love this dude. Uh, yeah, the Pelicans started their rebuild the same time as a bunch of teams, Oklahoma City, Memphis, and here you are amongst the worst teams in the league, and all the other ones have done it by design in Washington, in Brooklyn. They've done it by design. They meant to be bad. And you're the Pelicans, and you try to be mediocre, and you can't be that. You're striving to be in the mid grade. Right. So what did I think of the Doom? Those interviews were terrible. Those interviews were terrible. Gail Benson shows she's out of touch. Gail Benson shows she's out of touch. Again, it's money. She's in it for the money. She's the most powerful woman in sports. She owns 2 franchises. She's the richest person in the state of Louisiana. They don't care if this team win. That's why she ain't selling. When people say, what's her incentive to sell? It's not just the money, it's the power. When you are an NFL owner, the world is open to you in a different way. She goes back to being Gail. And she's not even if she don't care about these teams, she goes back to being Gail. She's Gail Benson right now. She ain't selling these teams. And she knows she's got a fool in Baton Rouge calling himself the governor who's going to give her whatever she wants on that lease deal because he's so scared of being the governor that told the owner of the Saints and the owner of the Pelicans no, thinking that they might go somewhere. So the politics of this, it's not about basketball. This ain't about basketball. You don't hire Joe Dumars if this is about basketball. You hired somebody to take the heat. That's what she did. And she didn't want to hear complaining. That's why Van Gundy's not here, because Van Gundy was going to complain. He was going to say, this is not how you run a franchise. This is not how you win basketball games. And she ain't got time to hear that. She got horses to race. She got donations to give. She got conscience to smooth. She ain't got but so many years to get into heaven, folks. She ain't got but so many years. This ain't about winning no games. It's about buying indulgences. But what I will say, and I said this, that you gave Zion his chance. You gave him his chance. He blew it. He blew it. He blew it. So now it's time to blow it up. It's time to blow it up. Because this is something that the Pelicans have failed to do ever in the franchise's history. They always try to take the shortcut to build two things at one time. And you can't do either of them well. They've proven that. So try to do it right. You have hit on your two rookies. You've hit on them. You got Jeremiah Fears. You got Derek Queen. And to a lesser extent, Micah Peavy has been solid. You want his shot to come around, but he's not a negative to me on the floor. Not considering, again, what you got for him. Got him for. But the rest of this roster, it's time to go and get what you can get. Start building for the future. Tear it down. Like there may be four guys I want to keep if I'm the front office. Fears, Queen, Nisi because he's cheap, Carlo because he's cheap. And they've got upside. So I've got three front court players and I got a point guard. I got to go find wings. Because I'm trading Herb, I'm trading Jose, I'm trading while they're everybody, Bay gone too. Because that contract, well, if Bay, I could keep Bay and let his contract burn out. So I don't have to trade Bay. Unless somebody offers me, like if they think that he's the piece for a missing piece for a championship. But you don't, no. See, this is the stuff that gets you in trouble. This is the stuff that you got to stop. Zion and Herb, you're not going to be good with Devin Booker. How are you going to be better with Devin Booker? With a 20-year-old point guard and a 21-year-old center next year? You think he wants to waste his career? You're not getting stars. And this misguided, it's two Bs, man. It's two Bs. Like it's on the screen. Y'all kill me with this one B. Like this desire of people chasing stars who are never coming to New Orleans. They're never coming. So get to building your roster the same way teams like Oklahoma City did it. Thank you. Like I just asked people to give me the B's, man. It's my name. I love y'all. You've got to build your roster on the same timeline. They didn't do it with Zion. You tried to have it both ways. You didn't do it with Anthony Davis. You tried to have it both ways. You've got to build a full and complete team. And some of that is going to be taking on some bad contracts to get those picks. But you got to get the picks. Next year's draft is about to be insane. I'm sorry. Like when scouts are saying, it's all good, man. It's all good. It's just it's your name. Everybody's likes their name. But like let's be real. So if you're going to build this team, you've got to build it for the future. You got to take on some bad contracts to get those picks because you have a draft next year that's talking about where Cooper Flagg would be the 6th pick in next year's draft. The 6th pick. I'm talking about 4 or 5 potential franchise players in this draft. You need assets. You absolutely have to get a first-round pick back. You cannot be out of this draft. You cannot. You've got to be in it. And the way to get in it is to sell these pieces. No, and a lot of people said it, like Trey Murphy is not a 1A. No, he's not. Do I still think he could be an all-star? I do. But he's not the number one guy. He just can't do it. He's playing better, but the pressure for him to put the ball on the floor, that's just not with this team. He can't do it with these guys. If you're catching the ball off of movement, he could pump and he could drive and do. But if you're asking him to create, no, he's not that guy. He's not Brandon Ingram. They are not the same player. And I didn't expect them to be the same player. But Trey will get you some first rounders. You know what I'm saying? Like Trey will get you first. Herb Jones will get you first rounder. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that's what you got to think about. Is how are you going and I don't know how you're gonna get back into the lottery immediately, if that's because obviously that's where you wanna be is in the lottery. I don't know how you're gonna get back into the lottery immediately because you gotta see more about how the records are shaking out. But if you get multiple picks, if you just keep trading everybody and get picks in next year's draft, and you use 2 picks to move up this year, right? Use 2 picks to move up this year. If you get multiple picks, you could get 2 picks to move up next year. Because if Zion's getting you a 1 and another conditional 1, if Trey's getting you 2 ones, if Herb's getting you a 1 and a conditional 1 down the road, if Jose is getting you multiple seconds and another player, if you just let Jordan Hawkins go, I don't get like just go, boy. Just let him go. Just let the bus pull off without him. But the rest of these guys, like I mean, DeAndre Jordan, he ain't going anywhere. He don't. His money's guaranteed. He ain't going nowhere. Nobody else needs to stay. Jordan Poole, bye, bye. Like it's not like y'all know him well. You know what I'm saying? You ain't had enough games with Jordan Poole to be misty if he goes away. Because you got to get cheap, and you have $109 million sitting on the bench. $109 million sitting on the bench in DeJounte Murray, Zion Williamson, and Jordan Poole. Everybody got to go. Everybody got to go. Because what are you trying to hold on to? What hope do you have now? 7 years. 7 years. This ain't it. You can't fix this. You can't fix this. You built a house on a bad foundation. It's falling off the foundation. You got to start all over. You can get something for Hawkins. What you gonna get for Hawkins? He's a guy who's going to be overpaid next year. The Pelicans picked up his the last year of his contract and didn't have to. You're not getting anything for Jordan Hawkins. A mediocre shooter. What are you going to get for Jordan Hawkins? They can wait for you to release him, and they can get him off the street if somebody's halfway interested in him. There are better shooters out there than Jordan Hawkins who are cheaper. You're not getting anything for Jordan Hawkins. I mean, you might, I don't know, you might get a stamp on your Monopoly card at McDonald's or something, but you ain't getting no picks or nothing for Jordan Hawkins. Could this front office build? Yeah, you could if you had the right people. But are you going to be patient enough to do it? You got to be committed to it because I'm not talking about tanking like the Sixers. And like you asked, like Oklahoma City didn't keep tanking. They didn't keep doing it. You know what I'm saying? So there's a difference between playing like trying to get his stacking a bunch of number one picks and making them compete to be somebody other than what Oklahoma City did. But they decided they were going to build around as soon as they got Shea. That was their franchise player. They identified him as their franchise player, and everything else that they did was to complement Shea. What does Shea need? He needed a physical defender in the backcourt, Lou Dort. What does Shea need? A center to protect the paint? Got it. You don't have the pieces. You don't have the pieces. Before this team, when this team was put together, it's been put together with the wrong parts. You have individual players, but you can't make these pieces work. If you got the bunch of the right jigsaw pieces, but they are for different puzzles, it don't matter how many of them you got, how shiny they are. They might all be corner pieces that are easy to put down. But you can't make the right puzzle. You don't really have pieces. You have individual pieces that will be good somewhere else, but you don't have the pieces that fit together. And I've been telling you this for years. Yes, the rookies are aggressive. No, Shea was not a star before he got traded after his rookie year. He was not a star. but he was identified as somebody that everybody wanted. Shea was not a star when he got traded. So, like, don't come over here and be wrong and be loud and wrong. Shea was not a star. But they decided once they targeted him, they told the Clippers there was no way you could have Paul George unless you give us that guy. The mistake that the Pelicans made is that they have never demanded what they really wanted. You keep hearing about with Griffin when he went out for trades. They said, well, they tried to get this guy, but they didn't. If you want the guy, the same way that they were willing to pay the price to go get Derek Queen because that was the guy that they wanted. If you want the guy, whether it's the coach, the player, whatever, what the price is not too steep if that's the guy for you. The demand is not too high if that's the guy for you. Does drafting for a position work? Yeah, it does. But I'm firm believer that you take the best player for what you're trying to do. If you've got you take the best available basketball player that fits what you're trying to do. Everybody's got to go because what are you holding on to them for? I don't know if it's at the deadline you get rid of everybody because you want the best deals possible. But if you find a dummy like Nico Harrison who's going to give you, a Godfather type deal, then so be it. You're not going to be okay till you get systemic change. Yeah, I mean, like when you talk about the problems with the rookies, there are big flaws in both of their games, right? And again, they are rookies. Jeremiah Fears was literally playing high school ball 2 years ago. Both of these guys were playing high school ball a couple of years ago. So when you look at them and for Jeremiah Fears, his assist numbers are terrible. He's giving you 3 assists and 3 turnovers a night. When I said that you can't win with a rookie point guard, this is what I'm talking about. He does not create for others. His offensive game, as far as his shooting's been fine. He's shooting 43% from the floor, 37% from three. Okay, he came in as a scorer. But this is why you can't start him as a point because he doesn't generate offense for other people. They're not collapsing enough for him because he's a rookie and he's not creating great passing options for other people and making their jobs easier. Queen makes it easier for other people, but his defense is a problem. And he's a willing defender, but he's not a good one. Fears is the worst defender not named Jordan Poole on the roster, statistically. Because again, I gave you the numbers. The opposing point guards are lighting him up. The starters are lighting him up. So you've got to live with that. You cannot win with that. You have to just live with it. So put the ball in his hands and you just got to live with the results. But you can't tell me you're trying to win. You can't tell me you're trying to win. No, don't get Alfred back. No, don't get Alfred back. You can't teach. I'm going to tell you, you can't teach somebody to be a point guard. So either you have to be a dominant scorer and assists come from that. You got to either be a dominant scorer. Like, again, Allen Iverson wasn't no point guard. Kyrie Irving is not a point guard, right? Those guys, yeah. That's not what you drafted Jeremiah Fears to be, is to run you drafted him to be the focal point of your offense, to be a guy who gives you 20 plus points a night and then gets assists off of his gravity, not assists because he orchestrates like a James Harden. James is a gifted passer, but the amount of assists he gets is because he handles the ball so much, and you have to deal with him offensively. So when you think about this, and again, when we talk about coaches, everybody would love Mike Malone. What have you seen in the Pelicans history to show you that they're going to pay Mike Malone? Like we're coming off a world where um, Monty Williams was getting what $13 million a year to coach. $13 million. What do you think Mike Malone's going to ask for? He's got a championship. He's won multiple playoff series. You think Mike Malone? Like, y'all are throwing out names that they're not going to pay any of these coaches. What in Joe Dumars' history? When he was with the Pistons, they had a team that was ready to win a championship so he could get Larry Brown. You saying, Pam, this is the Pelicans. You keep telling us like it's my choice to pay these people. The Pelicans they were paying Willie Green minimum wage. And you think they're going to go from minimum wage in a team that's winning 20 games this year to go pay somebody $15 million to coach this team? Do you really believe that? Do you really believe that? Tell me. Just tell me, brother, because like you said, just pay him. Like it's like that's the choice that this organization has shown you that they're gonna make. What makes you think they're gonna pay Mike Malone $15 million? Either pay him or move him. I'm saying move like what do you expect us to say? But you're saying pay him. They're not gonna do that. So you got to start thinking realistically. Like you got to start thinking realistic. Don't throw out things that you know aren't gonna happen. You're gonna have to identify the next young coach, like Dagano in Oklahoma City, like how Ime Udoka became the guy. That's who you got to find. That's who you got to find. You have to find the young coach because they're not going to pay for the experienced coach. They're not going to pay. Stan was out of the game for how long when he got his job? Alvin was back as an assistant when he got his job and had only one real playoff run in his career. They're not looking for that guy. So if you've got a team that is incomplete, you've got a front office that is not committed to finding the best candidate. They're committed to getting the best candidate that they can afford. Best candidate in their price range. And what they've set that price on. Which again, it's not we. You don't run nothing. I don't run nothing. We didn't do nothing. The Pelicans front office, what are they going to do? They are not going to spend $15 million on a head coach who has a championship in their history or a great winning pedigree. They're not going to do it. So don't think that it's going to happen. Just like every year y'all do this with free agents. Oh, we're going to get this guy. No, that's not going to happen. We're going to trade for this guy. No, it's not going to happen. We got to live on this earth with these rules and these people. So let's start dealing in some reality. Let's stop dealing in fantasy. Reality is it's broken from top to bottom. And until they make the commitment to rebuild, you don't go grab a winning coach to turn around a developing team. Pause. You do not go out and get a winning coach while you're trying to develop a team. You go get a coach who's going to do the instruction. You get a great teacher. No, you don't have any, we have no way of knowing either way, but you're not going to pay. If they're not going to pay that money, like you got to do, the kind of coach you need is somebody who's going to teach. Could it be Borrego? Like I said, he's put in a situation where I don't know how he wins this. I don't see how he can win enough games to make him, to make it look palatable to the fans. And I don't think how the situation is going to go for him to feel like he's been given an honest opportunity to mold the roster, to get enough practices, and to put the team together that he would have wanted on the floor. Because now everything's changed. And no, we have no way of knowing how things go, but we know what's not going to happen. So go to NBA.com. There's a lineups tool. I can't do all the work for you. There's a computer, NBA.com, lineups tool. You can put the 4-man lineup, and that group will show Zion, Fears, Queen, and Murphy. There's a 4-man group for that. They didn't play very many minutes together, so you're not going to get much data. Build the roster and find a coach who can teach. Because you see the young coaches, whether it's in Portland, Whether it's in are you talking about Adrian Griffin? Yeah, Adrian Griffin had the Bucks in first place. I think they were what 30 they had 30 plus wins. They were in first or second place when he got fired. Does he want to come here? The only advantage that the Pelicans have is that there are only 30 jobs in the NBA. But it seems as if this organization keeps making the wrong choices. Sam's not. Everything I've heard about Sam is that he's never going to get a head coaching job for some reasons. I don't want. It's not my place to say him, but I've just heard that Sam will never be a head coach in the NBA. But what I will say is this: there are a lot of young coaches out there, and not just young as far as age, but coaches who have never gotten the opportunity. Don't overspend on the coach, but find the one that's going to do the building of a culture. Like, look at Ime Udoka. He was a young coach, and he got to Boston. He set the culture. He told the style of play. He decided on that. He brought that same kind of thing to Houston. What are they? They are physical. They are fast. They play with tempo. They will play above the rim. They play defensively. The teams that win do all the little things. Who on the Pelicans is doing the little things? Like, that's why you have to blow the team up. Who on the Pelicans is doing the little things? Y'all have all watched Any Given Sunday. And when the coach sits there and he says, the game is in the inches, right? It said, who's going to go for that extra inch? The difference between winning and losing is that inch. Nobody right now, not even Herb Jones, who we have this high standard for. Not Herb has given it every night. Not even Herb has made the right plays as he usually has. And that tells you that you have an organization, a team that's broken. There are individual moments, but how is it that the first quarter, the third quarter is still the same thing? Willie's been gone now for 2 games. They still can't get out of their own way in the first and the third quarter. They still they can't stop people from getting hot who are not the main guy. Shea didn't go off last night, right? Shea had 23 points. Shea had 23 points. Nobody's doing the little things. Starting with your franchise player. Starting with your franchise player. So everybody got to go. Everybody got to go. Like, you keep the young players. There's 5 of them you keep. It's 5 people that you keep it. You keep it Queen, you keep it Fears, you keep it Misi, you keep it Carlo, you keep it Peavy. Some of these expiring contracts you can keep around. Because, I mean, look, Looney's contract is a team option. He's gone at the end of the year no matter what. I don't know if anybody's going to take him off your hands. But there's not a single. The only player that I think has played hard in every game is Eve Misi. But that doesn't mean every game has been good for Eve. I'm going to make a good. We don't have a pick, brother. We're going to make a good pick. We don't have a. They don't have a pick. They don't have a pick. That's what we talk about. You got to get rid of these dudes so you get some picks. But as of right now, the competitive portion of this season is over. And so what you need to be thinking about and what you need to be watching is who's going to go and who's going to stay. And that includes the coaches. That includes the coaches. Who's going to be here and who's going to be gone? Because they might as well put clearance on the outside of the Smoothie King Center. Because you can't wait 2 more years for your rookies to get to the point where they can be counted on in the playoffs or deep into the regular season and have Zion up for another extension and think that you're going to try it again. The pool making $30+ million. It doesn't make sense. DeJounte is going to be another year older. Next year, you say, oh, we're going to ramp up now. DeJounte's back. This is everybody's gonna be a year older. You're gonna be less certain. You're gonna be less competitive. The only way you're gonna get there to where you wanna be is blow it up because there's not a free agent who's coming. There's not a major player on the market this year. There's not a trade partner who's gonna give you a franchise level player, and you can't go around getting mid-tier stars just so you can have them and you can finish with 35 wins. So build it. You can't buy it. Build it. Build it. So, all right, y'all. We did this for 50 minutes. I appreciate y'all. I appreciate the feedback. I appreciate the questions. Uh, so, we'll be back again next week on Wednesday. If you got questions, you know how to hit me up on social media at DM Grub, across Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, whatever. But yeah, we'll be back again next Wednesday. I ain't gonna let you leave y'all hanging out here, and I'm still working on some other stuff too. So hopefully I'll get that out to you in the near future. Until the next time, for Brew Crew Media, for all our great sponsors like Task and Scott Vignair and whatnot, and John Deere, I have been David Grubb. Peace to you, and thank y'all again, man. I really do appreciate it, and I missed y'all. So this has been a post up. Talk to you soon.